In this episode of the Range Minded Podcast, we kind of go through the weeds a little bit. We talk about some current events, some stuff that's kind of frustrating, and honestly, the show kind of takes a weird turn at the end. Anyways, hope you enjoy. Let us know. Thanks for listening. Good morning, good evening, or whatever time of day it might be when you're listening to the show. Hey, this is Steve, and welcome to the Range Minded Podcast. And I'm going to apologize right off the bat. My son and his girlfriend and my wife and my kids are all upstairs, and they're being stupid loud. So you'll probably hear laughter, maybe a dog barking. I don't know, maybe my wife yelling at my youngest child. Who knows? Who knows? But there you go. This is just the way it is, folks. The way that it is. So I was going to do a current event show. We haven't really done one of those in quite a while because there really has been a lot of things going on in the gun community, especially on the news and the law side. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pike. If you haven't heard about the DOJ and the ATF's proposals for some stuff coming up with arm braces and safe storage and that kind of thing, we can get into that a little bit. But as I was doing some show prep, I decided instead of going on a broad scale of what's going down, there's been a lot of murmur and frustration and things going on with this Sandy Hook. I can't remember the court case. Anyway, the Sandy Hook victims settling with Remington. And as I was doing some research, I kind of thought this was an interesting topic. And I know there's a lot of people that have already talked about this. Coleon Noir actually has a great video that I just watched. That was actually quite interesting. And I just shared it to my personal Facebook page. I'll share it on the Range Minded Facebook page as well, and maybe I'll even link it to our Instagram. It actually is a really good video, and if you've spent time listening to Coleon, you kind of know how sort of he's going to dissect and get into it. And maybe that's bad policy to actually, share somebody else's content on my show, or not my show, our show. But where he's an attorney, he has a way of kind of seeing through the bullshit. If you understand what I'm saying. So let's get into this a little bit. When I first heard this, I was pissed. I was confused. I was extremely frustrated. But it turns out there's more to the story than what really happened. Let's just jump to the CNN story. Okay. So when I first saw this pop up on Facebook, I noticed that it said that Remington Firearms, whatever, settles with Sandy Hook victims for $73 million. I was pissed because why are we settling? Why is a firearms company settling when they are absolutely not liable for any of this? We don't sue Coors Light for drunk drivers. We don't sue McDonald's for obesity and mortality. Honestly, we don't sue the government for their mishaps time and time again on everything that they screw up. So how is Remington even liable for this? Let's jump into this CNN report a little bit, because this will just piss you off a little bit more. Anyways, if you want to get your blood pressure up, jump on CNN and read the completely unbiased story from CNN. It starts off right at the top. Families of the 5 children and 4 adults killed in the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School have reached a $73 million settlement with the now bankrupt gun manufacturer Remington and its 4 insurers. Now that's important, okay? The 4 insurers. What do we understand about Remington? Since 2012, has Remington struggled a little bit on the business side? If you've been in the industry long enough, you'll understand that, yeah, Remington has had a lot of struggles. In fact, they're gone. Their assets were sold out they filed bankruptcy. They're gone. Okay, so that's why I was a little confused. How is Remington paying for this bill if there's, in effect, Remington has been, their assets have been spread around from other gun companies. And then I thought, well, are these other gun companies having to pay for it? Is Ruger and the various other companies that bought up Remington assets, are they now responsible for this? No, they're not. but we'll get to that a little bit later. So this attorney, which again in Coleon's video, and watching this sleazeball ambulance chaser of an attorney, you can see the smug look on his face, thinking, "Oh, we've won something. We're gonna destroy the gun companies." And this could be an avenue where that actually could take place, but I digress. Anyway, so I was reading. Let's see. Now I had it saved on my screen, but then I moved it to read the beginning of this article. So we need to understand that in 2000. Let's see. Was it 2000? It was before this. The federal court made the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, I think is what it's called, to protect gun companies, because a company that makes a perfectly good product, in good faith, cannot be held responsible for something that's used as a weapon. Okay, so a long time ago they made that act where gun companies were not liable unless there was some kind of a manufacturing defect or whatever. The gun companies were protected, as they should be. It's not this giant cash cow, right? And gun companies, as far as I'm aware, especially Remington, talk about a boomer of a manufacturer. They're not making guns for kids to go shoot other kids at school. That's not their point. Anyway, sorry. Again, I digress. Says, and I think this is from their attorney. Oh, I can't remember that. Josh Koskoff. I think that's his last. Koskoff. It sure sounds like something else you could tease him about. He says, we established that was what was clearly true. The immunity protecting the gun industry is not bulletproof. Plaintiffs' attorneys, Josh Koskoff, said in a news conference, we hope that they realize that they have some skin in the game instead of blaming literally everybody else. Okay, you guys, maybe if you've listened for a long time, you remembered we've talked about how hard it is to be not only a retailer in the gun industry, but I think this was quite a while ago, we touched on how regulated the gun industry really is. I am not aware, maybe there's some alcohol companies out there that they might fall under some of these same categories, but excuse me, I burped. I don't know if you heard that. How rude of me. Or I don't know why I even said that. I could have kept it quiet. You guys would have never known. So, gun manufacturers. Okay, so in the very beginning, a gun manufacturer buys raw materials, whatever. If let's just say manufacturers of AR-15s. Okay, they're buying aluminum in huge chunks. They spend the time to process and then mill down that aluminum, and they serialize each individual receiver. Okay, now think about how many AR-15s are out there that we know of in the United States. I think up to 2021, there was 20 million AR-15s. That's not including like 80% lowers or maybe some homemade versions that are out there. So at least 20 million-ish out there. Okay, so each one of those 20 million AR-15s have to be serialized with a unique serial number. Also on the receiver has to be stamped the manufacturer's name and the state or city of which the manufacturer does business. Okay, every receiver has a unique number. Okay, we understand that, a serial number. That serial number gets recorded. So in their, I would assume they have something called a bound book. I know on the retailer side we have a bound book which records every firearm with a serial number that we take in and A&D, acquisition and disposition. Everything that we acquire and dispose of, we have to record that serial number. I would assume the manufacturers have something very similar. So now you have to imagine this logbook. Now that logbook is definitely subject to scrutiny by the feds at any time. So there we go. That's where the regulation starts. Okay, so from manufacturer to distribution, that serial number gets recorded. it gets recorded as a disposition from the manufacturer to an acquisition to the distributor. Okay, well, here we go. Here's this huge paper trail, this bill of lading that starts from the manufacturer and trickles down to the end user. From the distributor, it goes to the retailer. Again, we log acquisition from the distributor, and then disposition from the sales counter to the person purchasing the firearm. That's what the information, some of the information that goes on the 4473 that we all do when we purchase a firearm, that's where that serial number gets recorded. Okay, 2022. We just talked about, or 2021 again. Sorry, we talked about roughly 20 million AR-15s. Now that is not all the guns that were sold in 21. Tens of millions of guns that were purchased. Okay, tens of millions. We know that there was 5 million new gun owners in 2021. That's a lot. That's a lot of guns. You tell me another industry out there in the United States that has to be able to physically track a unique firearm from construction to final end user, and have to be able to produce that information at any time if the government wants it. Yes, the government can get that at any time, whether we want to believe it or not. Okay, we can get into another story about maybe we did already. Where the ATF is, they're retaining records against federal law that they're not supposed to be keeping. But again, that's another story. So now we see this huge chain of information that goes from manufacturer to end user. Okay, we don't do that with alcohol. Probably something similar does happen with explosives and explosive devices, but the firearms industry is the most regulated industry in the United States. Now, some of you also might be thinking that the firearms industry is just this huge money-making conglomerate of industry where you can just imagine like Strom Ruger swimming in his gold coins like Scrooge McDuck. Okay. They might make a lot of money as a business owner, but they don't make near as much money as what people might think. So that's something else I thought was interesting that Collion talked about in his video was Google made more in a day than Strom Ruger Corp, which is probably the most grossing gun manufacturer in the United States, made in a year. Google made more in one day than Ruger does in a year. Think about that. Who is the gun industry making loads of money? No. And honestly, anybody selling guns behind the gun counter, if you're on the retail side, you'll feel like that you're not making enough money. There is no margins in new guns. We have talked about this before too. It's not like apparel or soft goods or whatever. I know at the store, sometimes there could be margins anywhere from 15 to maybe even 60% on some stuff, which is great. And usually clothes is about 50%, 40 to 50% anyways. And that's outside the gun industry. But firearms, you as a retailer, we're making 10%, sometimes 15% if we're lucky, if we get a good deal coming in from the distributor. And you still think, well, that's a ton of money. I mean, some of those big firearms stores, they'll sell hundreds of guns a week. That might be true. And sure, on the paper, it seems like a lot, but we have to, on our side, on the retail side, as we're acquiring firearms from distribution, we have to pay somebody to physically pull out every gun out of every box, physically read every firearm serial number, make sure it matches the paperwork, the gun box, and that it gets put in exactly correct into our bound book. I know Independence, we run an electric bound book, and every time we make a change, we have to record what we did in the change. So if there was a mistake, it's a pain in the ass, okay? Because every time we make a change on that bound book number, it shows up as, let's say, our bound book number is 123, okay? So the specific gun In the book number, it's line item 123. So if we screw up on the serial number, well, then it's 123A, and then that's a pain in the butt in the book. And anybody that's run an A&D book understands how stupid that is. Anyway, okay, so where was I going with that whole thing? I don't know. My train derailed. I have to come back to the CNN story. Oh yeah, we were talking about how much money Ruger makes, and they're just swimming in money. And this $73 million that they settled with is a ton of money. Well, turns out that maybe the CNN story, I know this is going to be really tough for some of you to swallow, maybe that it's not quite accurate. Now, some of the content, I'm not going to say the whole story is fake news or whatever, but there's some stuff creatively omitted from the CNN story, and I imagine the NPR story, which I didn't read, because you got to understand, as I'm doing show prep, my eyes start to bleed when I read some of this stuff that is just ridiculous and annoying. So I can only handle 2 or 3 left-leaning news stories in a period of show prep, because I might as well have a seizure or an aneurysm or something. It's really frustrating. Anyway, so it turns out that, remember, that very first thing I read in the top there, that Remington and its 4 insurers are going to be settling. Okay, Remington can't settle. Remington is done. We talked about that. They're done. There is no Remington as it existed in 2012. They filed for bankruptcy twice in that amount of time between 2012 and 21. And then what are they going to do? You can't get blood out of a turnip, right? And the people that acquired Remington's assets, they're not liable. So who's on the hook for it? Oh, here we go. The insurance companies. Okay, the insurance companies. So my frustration and my anger over Remington settling wasn't quite accurate. The insurance companies and the attorneys that Remington's had to pay since, what was it, 9 years this whole lawsuit's been going on, they had to go through and settle. Okay? And the reason why they only got $73 million, they were going to ask for way more. This sleazeball attorney they were trying to get way more. And again, it's not all the victims' families. It's a few of the victims' families and this attorney, because he's probably going to take a pretty healthy chunk of 73 mil. Okay? The insurance companies are who settled with the attorneys. Okay, the NSSF. Now let's see if I can find this story that I thought was rather interesting from the NSSF. So if you don't know who the NSSF is, it's the National Shooting Sports Foundation. Hopefully I didn't slur my words there. And they're basically the industry's voice. The National Shooting Sports Foundation is, they're the ones that bring up SHOT Show or bring together SHOT Show. They're a huge resource for the gun community. I know when I was writing policies for the range, safety policies, they have a lot of assets for that side. They're a huge help for the community. And if you own a range and you're not a member of the NSSF, get your butt in gear and get that taken care of. Again, I digress. So, this is what the NSSF had to say. We renew our sincere sympathy for the victims of this unspeakable tragedy, and all the victims of violence committed through the misusing of any firearm. But the fact remains that the modern sporting rifles. Man, I am a great reader, aren't I? Are the most popular rifle in America, with over 20 million sold to law-abiding citizens, and rifles of any kind are exceedingly rarely used in crime. So, actually, that's not the quote I wanted to read, but there's some other ones. Man, I can't find what I highlighted the wrong one. That was one I thought was interesting. Anyway, basically, the NSSF said, "Hey, don't blame Remington. Don't blame Bushmaster. They had nothing to do with this settlement. The settlement was made through the insurance companies. Okay, which brings us to another dynamic. Okay, and this is important to understand. So though the insurance companies are the ones that settled and not the manufacturer, there's a big problem because let's say Remington didn't go bankrupt before this. Okay, this would have crushed them. Okay, it would have crushed them. This is the point of this lawsuit. They're circumventing the Lawful Arms and Commerce Act to financially ruin a company that did nothing wrong. The idea is to tie up these companies in these stupid court cases. 9 years. This case has been in the books for 9 years. Okay, it never went to trial, but it's not like Remington could just sit around and not pay their attorneys. Have you guys ever had to hire an attorney? Have you ever had to make a phone call to an attorney and then have to pay the $110 an hour bill that you were on the phone with a minimum of an hour, even though you were on the phone with them for 10 minutes? You know what it's like. Now imagine a huge company like this that has more problems than a frivolous lawsuit from this sleazeball. The point is to financially ruin these companies. They cannot operate. If they're tied up in court for 9 years, they can't operate. They're circumventing our rights by throwing these stupid court cases around, even though it didn't go to court, because they knew if they took it to court, they would have gotten the scrutiny of the lawful fire, the whatever the act was I just talked about. Anyway, and they would have lost the case. But if they can tie it up for that long, sure. The reason why it didn't really go anywhere is Remington, they went to the Supreme Court and said, hey, check this out. We're not liable for this. And the Supreme Court said, we're not going to listen to this. We're not. Well, that allowed the lesser courts to make a ruling on this. Now you tell me, do we have faith in the court system? I don't know. You can answer that yourself. I'm starting to waver in some of the really constitutionally minded people that we have in the Supreme Court because I don't know how constitutionally minded they really are. The other problem is with the whole story. The only things we're seeing are the stuff that they settled. Remington settled. We're not looking at what the reality of it is. How many of you guys knew that it was really just the insurance companies that settled and not Remington, or those who bought the assets of Remington? Probably not many. I had to do some research. I had to figure out what was going on. Once I saw that the report through the NSSF, and by the way, I found this through Guns America. They had a really good write-up about it. So if you want to read any of the articles that I read, I really need to link them, but I'm too stupid to learn how to link any of my shows, or I'm lazy. That's probably actually more accurate. So Guns America has a great report on it. If you want to read the CNN or the NPR, there's a buttload of other negative reports on how they're tackling this industry full of money bags. Anyway. So there's my rant about that. Let's I guess we got time. We can go through some of the other stuff. Did you guys even know, and I'm sure many of you are very smart, so I shouldn't say did you know or not. There's some new proposals from the DOJ and the ATF. And one of them is now law. Now, you may know about my disdain. I shouldn't say disdain for the ATF. I think there's some things that are necessary that the ATF, I get it. But they can't make laws. They're just an office full of bureaucrats. It's up to Congress to make laws. So, again, maybe I just leave it there. But they've come up with some new rulings that are kind of interesting. Let's see. So this is through the Truth About Guns. So I had to do some digging. I'd watched some videos on YouTube a few days ago, and then I couldn't find the links for the stuff I wanted to look for. So I had to do some digging again on some of my history on YouTube. We won't get into that either. Uh, but the ATF and the DOJ, there. Do you guys remember when we had to submit a comment about arm braces? And then it kind of went quiet. Well, guess what? It's not quiet. Hopefully, they had to read the whatever 100 million comments that were sent back to them. It's not over. It's not over, folks. They're gonna be pushing some stuff down our throats, I think. So the final action on the arm brace thing, and if you remember that stupid report card thing, like if you have this arm brace and you have this sight, that's a 2-pointer for the arm brace and a 2-point for the sight, but you can only have 4 points. Once you pass 4 points, it's going to be considered an NFA item, and then you got to go through the NFA process. Yeah, that didn't go away. They're going to make a final ruling or a final action on this whole arm brace fiasco, which I knew was going to be short lived, anyways. August of this year, they're going to make their final ruling on what they're planning on doing. Now it doesn't mean that the arm brace is illegal. Okay, they're not going to be illegal, but we're going to have to go through this stupid report card process, and decide if we're going to follow the report card or if we're going to cheat on our test. They also made something else effective, which was let's see. Here's some more stuff I probably should have read before I come up with. And maybe you guys already saw this stuff. They're going to redefine receiver and gunsmith and all that stuff. My sneaking hunch is they're going to make it illegal for us kitchen table gunsmiths to put anything together. They're going to make triggers serialized. They're going to make all these components serialized, and it can only go through a competent gunsmith, and he has to put the gun together, or she, sorry, if you're a lady gunsmith. I have a sneaking hunch that is coming down the pike as well. It's really frustrating. So, yeah, again, if you want to go through this, I'll see if I can actually get my button gear and link these in the show notes. But it's really frustrating. When is enough enough? They're going to be nibbling away, and they have been nibbling away at our God-given rights, little by little, and and I wouldn't say that we're lazy. I think we're apathetic as a community. It's silencers can be scary. Of course, that was just a ruling. That was a long time ago. But let's jump a little current. Well, bump starts are stupid. I don't care if they make those illegal. Whatever. They're stupid. Okay? Well, what's next? Arm braces aren't necessary. It's kind of stupid. It's just a component. Whatever. As long as I can keep my 1911, I'm fine. Right? When is that baby step enough? When are we going to say no? Maybe you remember this last week, Joe Biden said that the Second Amendment never even calculated for cannons. Nobody ever had cannon. Are you freaking kidding me? Obviously, these people in charge, and obviously a lot of us as gun owners, don't give a shit about history. Look at the privateers. Have you guys read the Federalist Papers? Do you even know any of the contemporary documents to the Constitution? Yeah, the Constitution included cannons. It included a privateer who had his ship set up the best equipped of the United States Navy that didn't really exist quite yet was a private man who had enough money to put cannons on his ship to fight off the British. Yeah, it included cannons. It included the Puckle gun. It included semi-automatic air rifles. I guess they weren't set. Anyway, I guess I'll calm down a little bit. There were a lot of firearms that were repeaters that existed then. Okay? If you don't believe me, that's fine. That's fine. You don't have to believe me. But please do your homework. Google Puckle gun. Puckklle. The Puckle gun. Google it. Look it up. Look at the manufacture dates. Look when it was in existence. Yeah, yeah, that was covered under the original Second Amendment. Yes, cannons were covered. Yes, muskets were covered. When is enough enough? All those were implements of war. We know that Biden's trying to get high capacity magazines canceled. Um, why? It's a magazine. Maybe some of you are like, oh, I don't care. It's just I can. If you can't hit what you got in 10 rounds, why not? My grandpappy did it in World War II with his 1911. He only had 7 rounds. I don't care. I'm glad that your grandpappy served in World War II, but technology's changed, and you're telling me if grandpappy couldn't have a 30-round magazine for his Garand, he wouldn't take it? Damn Skippy, he would. And I am too. What the hell? Why are we giving these people an inch? Why? Sorry. I guess what it comes down to is you need to contact our leadership. Start with the state. Okay? Tell them that you're tired of this crap. We need to be on the phone with our congressmen and our representation in Washington, those who are our voice. Okay? There's a reason for the republic. Okay? We don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic, a representative government. If you don't believe me, do some more homework. And if we don't share our voice and our opinion and our thoughts about how we want to be governed, they're going to make the best guess. And you tell me what they hear in Washington, D.C., right? Are they going to hear, constitutionally minded stuff, real conservative stuff? No, they're bombarded with crap. You cannot walk through a dairy barn without getting some crap on your boots. Okay, they're in the middle of the cesspool. Okay, we need to be their light. We need to be the soap that reminds them who they are and who they represent. It's crazy. I mean, look at Washington State. They just made a law banning the sale of high capacity ammunition. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about. High capacity ammunition. Okay, what is that? Hell if I know. Do you guys know what is high capacity ammunition? They don't know what they're talking about. Their goal is not to educate the people that they represent. Their goal is to manipulate the system and remove our rights to protect ourselves, because they look at constitutionally minded people as domestic terrorists. Okay? I've met a lot of gun owners in my life in the industry. A lot. I've trained a lot of people. I've taught a lot of classes, a lot of safety classes. I've sold a lot of guns, and I've made a lot of friendships in the firearms community, both at the store, the gun counter level, all the way up to people I've met at SHOT Show who are pretty influential. Okay? I've met a lot of people, and not one of them have I felt like, man, there's a problem. This dude is a terrorist. They're painting us as a picture, and we're too quiet because we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to cause any problems. They're painting us as these evil people, and we're not defending ourselves over it. Why? What are we so scared of? People might call us bad names. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Come on, man. Sorry, that was my Joe Biden. Come on, man. Let me whisper like the president. Maybe this will be better. Sorry. I guess I'm a little frustrated with the whole thing. Deep breath. Maybe this is why we don't do too many of these current event shows. Let's go on a brighter side of things. I guess the winter's leaving for us in the northern hemisphere. I got something good. Here's something good. So I was in Boise. I know you guys know that I'm back in eastern Idaho. I was in Boise for some family stuff. Hung out at the store over there for a little bit. And I promised my wife I wouldn't buy a gun, so I didn't buy a gun. or 2 or 3. I didn't buy any firearms whatsoever. But what I did buy, and it was a very good deal, maybe not financially, but it made me feel good. It was you know how some people eat to make themselves feel better. I like to buy things at the gun store to make me feel better. Maybe I'm compensating for something. Uh, but I got some 5.7 ammo. Finally, 5.7 ammo. And some of you guys are like, man, I can go to like Cabela's and find 5.7. Yeah, for $70 a box. No, I didn't pay $70 a box. I'm not even going to tell you what I paid for it. All I'm going to say is, it felt good. How about 500 rounds of 5.7? Now I can actually go out and shoot that Ruger I bought that I've only put 100 rounds through because I didn't want to blow a hole in all one box I had left. Because I like to keep a little bit in reserve. But now, how cool is that? 5.7, and it was almost back to normal price. So I mean, it was okay. But I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not, but ammunition is getting better. Not price wise. And I hope there's not gouging going on. I really don't think so because there's still a distribution issue. People are still buying way more than they need to. So it's a supply and demand thing. And honestly, it's a resources thing for the manufacturer. There's some issues going on there too. But it's nice to go into a gun store and see 9mm or 5.56. It's getting a little better. Do I think prices are going to come down back to pre-pandemic levels? I don't. I honestly don't think they're coming back to that price. Will they drop a little bit more? I think they are going to come back down. But I think we're going to have to get used to spending a little bit more money than what we were before. Now, does that change your buying habits? Is that going to change how many boxes you buy? I have to change. I told you I like to buy things that makes me feel comfortable when I go into a gun store. But I think as a way of encouragement, let's put it this way, as a way of encouragement, I think it's important that anytime you visit a gun store, if you have the means, maybe buy a box or two of ammo, even if it's something that you don't shoot very often. Maybe that's part of the problem of why we're at now. But I don't think it's important that you buy all the boxes of something. Save some for the rest of us. What else did I see while I was at the gun store? You know, we have some used stuff has been hard to get a hold of, at least for us in the store. There was a couple of range guns that came out of the rental pool that I was like, maybe I should buy that. But I withheld. Like I said, I had to make sure that I didn't break my promise to my wife. Like I said, I didn't buy a gun. I didn't put one on layaway either, if that's what you're thinking. But let's just say maybe the next visit, I might alter my promise a little bit. I guess we'll see. Anyway, I hope that this episode wasn't too negative. I've been really negative the last couple of weeks anyways. I don't know why. I've just been super grumpy. Honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with wintertime. I'm not a huge fan of wintertime. When I was snowmobiling and snowboarding and that kind of stuff when I was younger and my body tolerated falls a little bit better, wintertime was a little bit more fun. Now I just don't like going outside. I do need to be better. And maybe I shouldn't drink as many rock stars to bring my energy level up, but they do taste good. And it's just a kidney stone and heart failure. So, I mean, we all got to die at some time, right? Sorry. See, I told you I've been dark and negative. Hopefully you guys are spending time getting geared up to go shooting outside. It is going to get super nice this year. I have a feeling at least the spring is going to be nice. Maybe we need to get a little bit more rain on this side of the state to bring our water levels up a little bit. But make this year an awesome year. Even though we have crappy leadership in Washington, and I use that term very loosely because they're not leaders, it doesn't mean we have to sit and sulk about it. It does mean that we need to get involved more. I really do feel like as a gun community, we need to be more vocal about how we feel about things. That's why we're at where we're at right now, is because we don't want to ruffle any feathers, and I get it. Most of us are just trying to survive, getting along. We don't need any more drama in our lives. But the squeaky wheel definitely gets the grease, and there's a lot of greasy, squeaky people out there right now, and they are happy to dance all over the Constitution and burn the flag. And I'm not saying we need to get violent, or obviously, I mean, that's stupid. That is the antithesis of what we really need to be doing. But we can be vocal. It's okay to talk to people that we work with that were gun owners, and we need to invite them shooting. Why do you think I say that after every episode is take somebody shooting? It's because we need to broaden the community. There's a person that I'd love to get her on the show, and I need to find her information. She's the president of a Democrat shooting club. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but there are a ton of people on both sides of the aisle that enjoy the shooting sports. And we're not reaching across the aisle and encouraging those people to come together. Honestly, if you guys have heard of the Pink Pistols, I think we've talked about it before. It's a LGBT gun community, and it's huge. But why aren't we getting involved? Like, why aren't we coming together and standing up for something that we know and enjoy and is part of not just who we are, but what we are? It baffles me. It really baffles me. And it kind of hurts. And it does seem like the negativity is amping up. It seems like it's I have a feeling it's going to be a tough year. And I don't know if it's. I think the painting that's going to be made about gun owners is going to be very negative, and it's going to be up to us to shine some light on that subject. I think I don't know how else to put it. It's going to be hard for us gun owners, but it's important for us to be involved in the community so people see that gun owners aren't that type. Okay? Listen, you guys, I love you. I'm going to let you go. I think it's important for you guys to know that that somebody is watching out for us and loves us. This is going to sound really weird, but I really feel like I need to say this. We're all God's children, and we're here for a purpose, and maybe that purpose is to stand up and fight for what we believe in, and I promise you, man, I really don't know why I'm sharing this, but I feel like I need to. I promise you that God knows who you are. Boy, what a weird show, right? Talk about going from one end of the spectrum to the other. Please take somebody shooting. Please support your local gun rights groups. And be a good steward of the Second Amendment. And just be a good person. It doesn't take that much just to be a good person. I love you guys. Be safe. Later.
Hey gang, we really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. If you liked this episode, make sure you let us know and everyone know by giving us a 5-star rating and maybe sharing us with your friends. If you have an idea for an episode or a guest that you think would be cool to have on the show, or you just want to get in touch with us, you can email us at podcast@iishooting.com or hit us up on Facebook or Instagram @Range Minded Podcast. Thanks again, and take somebody shooting.